I will give an introduction to the finance function, what we do. I will talk about the concept of unit economics, so a financial concept and a practical application of part of what the finance function will be looking at. And I will cover a bit of a roadmap for what finance looks like for the next 6 months. So the finance function at Juni really is concerned with two things: the financial performance of Juni, but also the financial health of Juni. And we do that through principally 3 activities. The first one is financial operations, and I kind of stole the ops name from Jonathan's team because everyone seems to be called ops now. And this really is the core part of probably what a lot of people think finance is. So accounting, paying invoices, collecting your receipts, making sure that money is in the right bank account at the right time, ensuring that we have liquidity for day-to-day, month-to-month, and future year-to-year needs. And obviously in the future, ensuring that we have segregated funds for our credit offering, and also, hopefully, external debt to finance that credit offering. And you can really think of this function as a data gathering activity. So when you send an invoice to invoice@juni.co, then we won't only just process it, but we will categorize it. Is it a recurring cost? Is it one-off? Does it relate to our software licenses? Is it variable? Is it fixed? Really for us to gather that data. And that data in turn is used in the financial analysis team, because that team provides and creates the historical reporting for Juni. So how has Juni performed historically, and how will it perform in the future? Yeah? And in terms of the past, it's very much not only the how, but the why. So if card spend is increased by 10%, yeah, was that an increase because we onboarded more customers, or was it because we increased the existing card spend on the existing customer base? And those questions have very different financial implications. Yeah? And it's also extremely important for us to have a view of how that might develop in the future. And we will cover some of those aspects in the section that I call Unit Economics later. The third team is concerned with Juni's overall financial strategy, yeah? And the overall performance. It really builds on the 2 other teams. And another way of looking at that is to think about the financial operations team as asking the how of our financial performance. So how are we performing? Financial analysis asks the questions of why, and strategy, the implications. And in terms of time period, we're looking at the historical period in ops, the near-term future in the analysis team, and longer term in the strategy team. And it really comes down to us being able to build a very strong foundation, because we're starting a finance team from scratch. Yeah? So we need to establish these very basic processes in order to create the data that we can then analyze and act upon. And I won't go into too much detail on the various activities because, yeah, there's a lot of bullet points up here. But we really need to do that in a kind of 3-pronged approach. So that's a little bit of a context about what the finance team does and what we intend to do. And a very practical application of that is a concept called unit economics. And unit economics is essentially, as the name implies, the profit that we make per unit sold. So in the case of a t-shirt company, it will be the profit that they make per t-shirt. And in the case of Juni, it will be the profit that we make per customer. And we will go through this concept, and we will go through the what and the why, so why it's important, and how that is applied at Juni. So at the very core, and to use a very basic example, let's assume that I, on the side for my job at Juni, want to run a lemonade stand. And I want to scale this into lemonade empire. Yeah? And in order for me to do that, let's simplify and say that I need to buy some lemons, and I need to buy probably some sugar, and then I've got some water so I can make my lemonade. Yeah? I then want to make sure that I hire someone to run the lemonade stand because I don't want to run it myself. And in this example, the lemons and the sugar is a variable cost because they will increase as I sell more units. Yeah? And over time, what I want to make sure is that the profit that I make on each of my drinks, in the end, cover my fixed costs. And that's exactly what Juni is now. Yeah? We have a cost base of roughly 700,000 to 800,000 euros per month. And what we need to make sure is that we are profitable on a per unit basis so that when we scale that, we're able to cover our fixed costs. Yeah? And it goes in this example without saying that we need to price our lemonade at a higher price than the cost of the lemons. Yeah? And this might seem like a very, very simple logic, yeah? And a kind of banal logic. But let's assume that I want to introduce a juice instead, so I have more fruits. So I've got to add some kiwis, melons, pineapple, whatever, all at different costs. And this is the analogy that will happen with startups, that as they scale, they become more complex. And you add different types of costs, and the organization overall will increase in complexity. And what happens in that case is that, well, a vast majority of startups fail. And a very prime reason for that is because they don't get their unit economics right. Because if we don't make a profit on that lemonade, it doesn't matter whether we're selling one lemonade or 1,000 lemonades. Scaling becomes, well, basically you can't scale if you're not making a profit per unit. So what does that look like at Juni? Well, at first, I want to mention this, that I met a investor once who told me that hypergrowth is easy when you're selling dollar bills for 90 cents. And that happens when you get unit economics wrong. So what does this look like at Juni? Well, at Juni, we don't sell lemonade. So we have a slightly different business model. And when you sell lemonade, you hopefully make a profit on the very first glass of lemonade that you sell. Yeah. But at Juni, what we do is that we acquire customers, and then we recoup the spend on that customer over time. So if, for example, Matthias, Linus, and Max go out and pay 500 euros for Facebook ads, and one customer signs up and becomes an active customer, the cost of acquiring that customer is 500 euros. But now we've made an investment and we're in the hole, so we haven't made any money yet. We need to activate the customer starts using its card, and as the customer uses its card over time, we recoup that investment. So in our case, we need to make sure that our unit economics starts becoming positive by adjusting these three levers. So we can either reduce our customer acquisition cost, we can increase the card spend, or we can make sure that customers stay longer on the platform. Yeah. And this has some pretty big implications if we look at the type of customers that we serve. Yeah. So if we look at a basic or silver customer in the month of June, then we roughly either recouped or stayed at 1.5 times of the CAC that we spent on that customer. And the implication of that is obviously that we need to acquire more customers. Yeah? And we require more cash to acquire those customers. A platinum customer, on the other hand, has very similar CAC, at least for now. And obviously, with that, we require less customers to onboard and less cash. And Mave Media is a completely different beast. Yeah? Huh? Lifetime value. So LTV is the gross profit per customer that you make times the time that the customer is on the platform. Yeah? So if a customer stays for 5 months, and we make gross profit of 100 per customer, then the lifetime value is 500. If you divide that by the cost of acquiring the customer, that gets an ROI metric. So that way we can calculate, yeah?